Hi, I'm Tati, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this plan pooling crochet book cover. So here's the book cover off of the book. I was actually heavily inspired to make this design by the new covers of the Gallagher Girls series because they all have some kind of like plaid or argyle. I also just really love playing around with plan pooling. And you can actually now buy yarn that is made specifically to color pool. However, I didn't know about that when I made this, so that's not the yarn I used to do this. To make this, I actually used Red Heart Classic in the color purples. And you will also need a crochet hook. I'm using a 5.5 mm because that is what's recommended on the skein of yarn. And also some yarn needles and of course scissors. So the first step is to see how our yarn is going to color pool or plan pool. And I learned how to do that from a video that I'll leave linked in the description. So to do that, we have to pull out the yarn and try to figure out what pattern the colors are going in. With this yarn, because I have made one already, I know that the pattern is dark purple, a medium purple, and then a light purple, and then white, and then light purple, and then medium purple, and then it starts over again with a dark purple. And this is the beginning of the pattern. So we're gonna set that aside for a minute, and we're gonna get out a paper and some colors. I'm using markers because that's what I have handy, and I have it in similar-ish colors. And so I'm just going to mark down what the pattern is. Dark purple, medium purple, light purple, white, light purple, medium purple, and then it's going to start over again at the dark purple. So we need to keep this handy because we're not done with it yet. But we'll move that to the side again. And now we're going to start our chain. So we make a slip knot and then we start chaining. And the length of your chain is going to vary depending on how long you want your project to be. I know that I want my project to be big enough to go around my book and maybe a little bit longer so that I can fold it over on the edges and sew it closed so that the book will stay in the book cover. So I'm just going to keep measuring it against the book as I go until I have a long enough chain. I am now at the point where I think my chain is long enough, but I'm going to keep going a little bit because an important part of this pattern is that when we turn and start doing our first row, we have to start on the first color. So that dark purple color has to be our first color, or whatever the first color is on your yarn. And it doesn't really matter if your chain is a little bit too long because we can fix that later. For this first turn of our project, it's very important that we count the stitches we get from each color. So that's where this comes back in. We're going to put down how many stitches we get out of each color so that we can figure out our pattern. 11. And that brings us to our next color. So that's 11 of the dark purple. So that's what I'm going to write down. So that's 3 for the medium purple, 4 stitches of the lighter purple. And as you're doing this, you want to keep your stitches pretty even when it comes to tension, because this is how you're going to have to work your whole project. 7 white, 3 of the medium purple. I'm actually just really happy this one matches up with the last one I did. So my pattern is sticking to what I did last time. Now that we have this information, we're going to go to a website that I will leave linked in the description, and that's going to be plannedpooling.com, and you just put in your colors and your stitches in each color and then your stitches in a row. And if you're using this for crochet like I am, you want to put flat back and forth knitting as the type of knitting. Now the part you really have to kind of play around with is the number of stitches in a row. Figure out how long you want your project to be and start there. And then you can add stitches, like if I want to make this a stitch longer, or you can remove stitches until you get a pattern you like. So the project may not be exactly the size you want it to be in order to get this pattern. I like what it looks like at 47 stitches. So that's what I'm going to do. And now you're just going to continue working in this chain until you have the number of stitches you've decided on. But you have to make sure that you keep getting the same amount of stitches out of each color as you go. So I'm just going to keep single crocheting until I have 47 stitches. Alright, so now that I've gotten to 47 stitches, we're just going to turn our work to start on row 2. Also, don't worry about any leftover chain you have because we'll just fix this later by undoing it. But we're just going to turn it here. And a very important thing to remember when doing this pattern is not to chain when turning. I'm just going to go straight into that last stitch that we made and keep going. So basically it's just going to be back and forth to each end as we work our pattern, just up, back and forth, and the only thing we have to keep track of is that we are getting the right number of stitches out of every color. So every time you're doing dark purple, for example, if you're using this yarn, you have to get 11 stitches. Every time you have the medium purple, you need to get 3. Every time you have the light purple, you need to get 4. Every time you have the white, you need to get 7. Light purple after the white is 4, and the medium purple after the light purple is 3. That's why not all yarns will color pool, at least using this method, because some yarns aren't consistent in the number of stitches you can get out of each color throughout the pattern. Also, sometimes it's just inconsistent, so you might have to make your stitches tighter or more loose in order to get the colors to end up where you want them, or to get the right amount of stitches out of that color. I found that it's a lot more important to match the colors to the number of stitches than it is to match the gauge or tension. So as for the number of rows, that's going to vary depending on what you're making. Basically, like what I did with my first chain, I'm just going to keep working on it and keep measuring it against my book. Especially if you're making a book sleeve. Books come in so many different sizes, so it's really kind of a measure as you go process. So I'm going to continue to add rows until it's the right size. And this is basically the halfway point of this pattern. So because of that, and because I don't want this video to be too long, I'm going to end this video here. Finish up these rows, which is just what we've been doing this whole time, single crochets, until it's the height of the book. And then I'll have the second half of this project where we kind of just finish it up by sewing some parts together and getting rid of this tail. And that video will probably go up next week. So if you're doing this project with me in real time, you have a week to get enough rows to match the height of your book. Thanks for watching, and to be continued. Because if I don't do this, this video is gonna be really long, I feel like. And as you may be able to tell, I was actually not doing this upside down. Also, I just really love playing around with planned pulling. Why am I doing this upside down? I don't need it to be upside down. Oh my gosh. I'm so stupid. So yeah, I'm going to look at my script. So that was 2 minutes of me trying to figure out what we're doing. I hope this video is not too long and you don't have to watch me chain a million chains.